Hi, I'm Stephen Pruitt, President of the Southern Regional Education Board. Hopefully, you are pretty familiar with what we're doing. What we've pulled together is really the first of its kind in the country, as far as we know, and that is the AI and Education Commission. In SREB world, what that means is that we bring together members from all 16 of our states. We have different types of roles. You'll hear from people that are legislators, that are state higher ed chancellors. You'll hear from teachers, you'll hear from business and industry, and from workforce. The idea here is that as AI is taking on more importance and more prominence in our society, what do we as an education system need to do to respond to that, to ensure that this is not something that gets so far out of league that we don't have the real conversations that need to be had on the front end? So, our commission is going to be tackling policy around K 12 and post secondary use of AI. We have a committee that's going to look at instruction when it comes to K 12 and post secondary using AI. And we have a group of individuals that are going to be looking at the skills needed to be developed by students in K 12 and post secondary to be members of a workforce that is going to be reliant on AI. We just finished our first commission meeting. It started yesterday. We led off with a great conversation with the CEO for Humana, Bruce Broussard. We heard from Governor Asa Hutchinson, former governor of Arkansas. For our endeavors here, Governor Henry McMaster, governor of South Carolina, is our chair, and Brad Smith, the president of Marshall University, is our co-chair. So we just finished our second day. I think everybody is very excited, but I think we're all a little bit tired after 2 days of intense discussion. So with that, we are happy to answer your questions about the work and about your interests around AI.
Thank you for coming together to really delve deep into this topic. If you could, I guess, summarize what you feel you all have accomplished as a group that could move this particular area forward.
Sure. So, and I'll just start, and any of you that would like to chime in, please do so. We had such an incredible group, but also a group that came from a lot of different perspectives. And so, a lot of what we've done over the weekend or over the week is really have the conversations about what are we really going to be able to approach and tackle, and what are kind of the value statements that we're going to have. So, we've really dug pretty deep into things like thinking about how we don't need to necessarily regulate the technology itself, or to worry about the jobs themselves going away, but actually think more about the tasks that these are going to make easier and less complex. We spent time talking about the importance of policy, recognizing that these superpowers can be used for the good and or evil. So how do we manage that? And then, of course, the skills that are there. So, panelists, who would like to chime in?
I'm Calvin McNeil. As far as what we have accomplished over these past 2 days, I would say we accomplished a blueprint of what it looks like to implement this technology into different fields of education, what type of relationships that creates with the workforce. After these 2 days, I can clearly say we have a plan, and we're ready to progress that plan.
My name's Charles Outbig, Senior Advisor for the Coordinating Council for Workforce Development here in South Carolina. One of the great things that SREB has allowed us to do in coming together, really from the educator to the legislative side, is also bringing in those industries and having the active involvement of the industries and knowing what they're looking for, not only now, but continuing to be that partner as the technology evolves so that they can get that information back to the schools to understand what skills need to be taught is really encouraging part of this process.
Hi there, Senator Katie Freyhester from the state of Maryland. I just really like to commend the board for bringing us all together. And I think one of the things that's really important is that everybody here from these diverse perspectives recognizes the importance and the critical nature of this really powerful technology. There are both risks and opportunities, and I think our charge is to really balance those in the education space. There's just a few examples I wanted to share. Like, so if you're thinking about education, you can use AI to tailor education for individual students. You can use it to improve those mundane administrative tasks. You can use it to look at large data sets and identify trends that will help students learn better. But we want to do all that in a really careful way. We want to make sure that the artificial intelligence that we're using is fair and unbiased. There's no unintended consequences of it. We also want to make sure that like the data of our students stays safe and is not exposed. And we want to ensure that with our teachers' jobs, that the artificial intelligence enhances rather than replaces the role of teachers. And I think this is the right group to do that. We want to lead at the state level.
Purcell, Alabama Commission on Higher Ed. I think the big thing is really preparing our institutions, both K through 12 and higher ed, in how to prepare people for a world that's changed. With, they say now 60% of our jobs are going to be impacted by artificial intelligence. Well, how do we alter the way we deliver, and how do we use that technology to be better at preparing them for a world that'll be very different than the world we're currently working in?
Hi, this is Professor Greenawald. What I really thought was remarkable is that we're going to bring it together, industry and the students and the parents, and we're going to take advantage of what AI offers, which is a unique tool that we can all use to improve their skill sets for working in the work environment. The whole purpose, all of us are wanting to take students to school, is that they end up in a position that they can meet the needs of the job market.
So the different perspectives are important in this job, and also to provide to the community the outcomes that we have been in the pilot programs. So because we have a lot of misconception like AI should be banned or something like that, and by the contrary, as Senator mentioned a few minutes ago, we have to provide this to the education because it's a great tool to leverage and improve the educational process. So that is why it's important to work or this type of meeting be like a movement in the entire nation. So I'm really good and excited to be part of this and helping everybody here.
I would probably just also say back in the late 70s, introduced calculators into our classrooms. And, we actually had one of our presenters from code.org that, showed some of the news clippings at the time that said, oh my goodness, we can't learn math anymore. We're doing calculators. Then in the 80s, it actually started becoming more utilization and usage. And then by the 90s, NAEP, the National Assessment for Education Progress, had actually included it in their protocol for how to assess math. And I think the real commitment that we saw here this week was we want to make sure that this very powerful tool, because it is a tool, should be something that supports education. And we need to have these conversations now before we do see policy or instruction that's not really benefiting the students. I'm going to ask the professor to talk a little bit about the framework that you guys have in Florida and how there's been this very intentional way of supporting students learning AI and progressing toward that career field.
Hey everyone, I'm Nancy Rizicki from the University of Florida. And so within the state of Florida, we've developed frameworks for learning, which are basically standards. They're going through the Career and Technical Education Division, which exists in every state for education. And within this division, students are learning high-level concepts that will allow them to become employable, especially when we talk about this new industrial revolution 4.0, where we're going into a whole new world and there's jobs that have not even been created yet for these students. So what skills do they need to learn and how do we help prepare them? To do that, Florida provided frameworks from grades 6 through 20, right, from middle school through post-secondary education up to PhDs, where there's an articulation of frameworks or learning objectives that go into AI and then into data science. And that includes AI and data science for middle schoolers, high schoolers, state college, 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, and then master's and PhD levels. So how do we take that framework and then do it across all of the grades that students may experience in their career and at different levels, right? So you may not want a PhD, but you can be a technician in the field and earn a good salary for your family. And so helping people get onto the AI pipeline provides equity and access for all students.
I will reiterate that there's a lot of work going on around AI in a lot of different places, but I think what is making this unique is having it at a table, a state legislator with state higher ed executive, with a state superintendent, with a teacher, with a college instructor, with industries and our technical college systems. You're not finding that in a lot of places where really all those perspectives are coming together in a way that gives us, I think, better clarity of where we need to go.
What plans do you all possibly have in sharing your findings or collaborating with other organizations and groups to really kind of get to the nuggets of all of this? And again, I love the part about having the conversations before legislation. And so just what plans, if any, to collaborate with other groups?
Fantastic question. So first of all, on the parts that that are coming, a typical commission at SREB takes 9 to 12 months. It ends usually with a publication that has a set of recommendations. And while we intend on doing that, it may take us actually at least the 12 months to get that part done. But over the course of this next year, you're going to see a constant publication of different aspects of the work that's going on. We want to be able to inform now. We don't want to wait a year and then hope that nobody has moved far enough that we can't pull it back. So you're going to see, for instance, one of the things I think that you'll see early is we've already pulled all the current regulatory and statutory things that have happened in our 16 states. We want to share that with people to see what's actually currently going on in states and do some analysis on how those things are similar and different. We've had a great conversation over the last couple of days of how are we defining AI? I mean, I've heard people talk about it as Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator, and I've heard them talk about Roomba. Well, we've got to talk about something in the middle of that. And so, this isn't about us trying to fight the apocalypse. We're actually trying to figure out how we can do this and do it well. So over the course of time, as our groups are meeting, you're going to see some pretty consistent publications that come out that show promising practices of how to use this in instruction, that talk about what is the policy conversation that's happening now, and then what kind of conversation should be happening. We're going to see conversations about how does higher ed and post-secondary in general need to approach this kind of work. As far as partnering goes, we have, for instance, at our meeting today, or this week, we had Code.org, who's a great partner of ours. We had the Education Commission of the states. There are other organizations that we're going to be bringing in at various points to make sure that we're not doing this in a vacuum. And then the retro part to that is once we do what we do, we want to get it widely known. We want to be able to publish it, and we want our partners to be able to share that with their constituencies as well, to make sure that the work is not just something that we're doing because we think it'll be cute to do and end up on a web page. This is meaningful for us. So thank you for that question. This is all about dissemination and hopefully impacting the thinking around AI and subsequently the work that goes on around it.
I just wanted to take a stab at answering that partnering question too. I think it's really interesting to think about how artificial intelligence is going to affect society in general. Like we're talking about education, but what I'm thinking about is like economic mobility. If you think about the types of jobs that are going to be impacted by this, there's tons of different statistics out there about how many jobs are going to be automated or displaced. And I think what we need to think about is really carefully, how can those jobs be enhanced, rather than displaced. I saw a report from McKinsey recently which said that the gap between black and white households, given the technology innovation that's coming, could increase by $43 billion annually. And so what I'm thinking is, how do you make sure that there's equity across who gets access to artificial intelligence, make sure everybody's learning about it and everybody's prepared for that future so that economic disparity doesn't happen. And instead, just like education is the key to economic mobility, artificial intelligence puts that all on steroids.
Yeah, I think one of the things we heard quite loud yesterday from our panelists were, this isn't the age of Rosie the Robot taking over everybody's jobs. There's actually going to be jobs. The question is, are we going to have people who can do those jobs? Okay, well, I guess I will thank all of you for coming. If you have questions, feel free to follow up with us. We're happy to take additional questions. We can also connect you with our fine panelists that are here. We appreciate your interest. We hope that we've been able to provide you something that you can use in your stories, and we hope that you'll write about it. Again, I know this is a little bit self-serving and biased on my part to say that we believe this is really important, but there's nobody else having these kinds of conversations with these types of people. And so we hope that it's something that all of you will report on and keep reporting on as we keep moving down this track. We can make this recording available to you. Yes, we will be happy to make that available. If we have no other questions, thank you for your time and thank you for being with us.